The Whispering Graveyard. In the small, forgotten town of Blackwood, there was a graveyard that everyone avoided. Known as the Whispering Graveyard, it lay on the outskirts of town, shrouded in mist and mystery. The townsfolk spoke of strange occurrences, soft whispers carried on the wind, shadows that moved of their own accord, and an overwhelming sense of dread that gripped anyone who ventured too close. The graveyard was ancient, its origins lost to time, and it was said to be cursed. Chapter 1: The History of Blackwood. Blackwood was a town with a dark history. Founded in the early 1800s, it thrived briefly before a series of tragedies struck. Fires, mysterious deaths, and disappearances plagued the town, leading many to believe it was cursed. The graveyard, which had been there long before the town was established, was believed to be the epicenter of the town's misfortunes. Legends spoke of a malevolent force buried deep within its grounds, a force that fed on the souls of the living. Chapter 2: The Legend of the Whispering Graveyard. According to local legend, the Whispering Graveyard was the final resting place of a powerful sorcerer named Mordecai Blackwood, for whom the town was named. Mordecai was said to have dabbled in dark magic, making pacts with demons and performing forbidden rituals. When the townspeople discovered his activities, they executed him and buried him in the graveyard, hoping to rid themselves of his evil influence. But Mordecai's spirit did not rest. It was said that his whispers could still be heard at night, calling to those who dared to listen. Chapter 3: The Arrival of Dr. Evelyn Crane. Dr. Evelyn Crane, a renowned historian and paranormal investigator, arrived in Blackwood, intrigued by the legends surrounding the graveyard. Evelyn was known for her fearless approach to the supernatural, and she had made a name for herself by debunking myths and uncovering the truth behind ghost stories. Determined to get to the bottom of the graveyard's mystery, she set up camp in an old, abandoned house on the edge of town. Evelyn's arrival caused a stir in Blackwood. The townspeople, wary of the graveyard and its curse, tried to dissuade her from investigating. They spoke of the dangers and the fate of those who had ventured into the graveyard and never returned. But Evelyn was undeterred, driven by a need to uncover the truth. Chapter 4: The First Night. On her first night in Blackwood, Evelyn decided to explore the graveyard. Armed with a flashlight, a voice recorder, and her trusty notebook, she made her way through the thick fog that seemed to cling to the ground. As she entered the graveyard, a chill ran down her spine. The air was heavy with an oppressive silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The graveyard was a maze of crumbling tombstones and gnarled trees, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Evelyn moved cautiously, her flashlight casting eerie shadows on the moss-covered stones. She stopped by an ancient, weathered tombstone, the inscription barely legible. Suddenly, she heard a faint whisper, a voice so soft it was almost imperceptible. She strained to hear, her heart pounding in her chest. Chapter 5: The Whisper. The whisper grew louder, though still barely audible. It seemed to come from all around her, echoing through the graveyard. Evelyn's recorder captured the sound, but when she played it back, the whispers were distorted, as if they were coming from another dimension. She felt a presence, a cold, malevolent force watching her from the shadows. Determined to find the source, she ventured deeper into the graveyard, the whispers growing louder and more insistent. The whisper was not just a sound, it was a feeling, an invasive thought that seemed to worm its way into Evelyn's mind. It spoke of dark secrets, ancient rituals, and a hunger for souls. Evelyn felt a strange compulsion to follow the whisper, to uncover its source and understand its message. Chapter 6: The Discovery. As Evelyn ventured deeper, she stumbled upon a hidden path overgrown with weeds and vines. The path led to a clearing, where a large, ornate mausoleum stood, its entrance sealed with a heavy stone door. The mausoleum was covered in strange symbols and carvings, some of which Evelyn recognized from her studies of ancient texts. She knew she had found the resting place of Mordecai Blackwood. The mausoleum radiated a palpable sense of dread. Evelyn felt as if she were being watched by unseen eyes. She examined the carvings, recognizing them as protective wards designed to keep something contained within. Despite the fear gnawing at her, Evelyn was determined to enter the mausoleum and uncover its secrets. Chapter 7: The Entrance. Evelyn spent the next few days researching the symbols on the mausoleum. She discovered that they were part of an ancient ritual designed to seal away a powerful entity. The more she learned, the more she realized the danger she was in. But curiosity and a desire for the truth drove her forward. Armed with this knowledge, Evelyn returned to the graveyard with tools to break the seal. It took all her strength to push the heavy stone door open. A rush of cold, stale air greeted her, carrying with it the scent of decay. Inside, the darkness was impenetrable, and Evelyn's flashlight barely made a dent in it. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. Chapter 8: The Mausoleum. The mausoleum was a labyrinth of narrow corridors and small chambers, filled with old, dusty coffins and urns. The air was thick with the smell of mold and rot. As Evelyn moved deeper into the mausoleum, she felt the temperature drop and the whispers grew louder, echoing off the stone walls. She followed the sound to a large central chamber, where an ornate sarcophagus lay. The sarcophagus was covered in the same strange symbols as the entrance, and Evelyn knew this was the final resting place of Mordecai Blackwood. The chamber was filled with an oppressive darkness that seemed to swallow the light from her flashlight. Evelyn felt a cold dread settle in her bones as she approached the sarcophagus. The whispers were deafening now, a cacophony of voices that seemed to be pleading, threatening, and mocking her all at once. Chapter 9: The Awakening. With trembling hands, Evelyn began to decipher the symbols on the sarcophagus. She realized that the only way to stop the haunting was to confront whatever lay within. She carefully removed the lid, revealing a skeleton dressed in tattered robes. As she did, a surge of cold air swept through the chamber, extinguishing her flashlight. In the pitch darkness, she heard the unmistakable sound of bones moving. A cold hand grasped her wrist, and she screamed, pulling back and falling to the floor. The whispers turned into a deafening roar, and she felt a presence looming over her, malevolent and powerful. Chapter 10: The Confrontation. Evelyn fumbled for her flashlight, managing to turn it back on. The beam of light revealed the skeletal figure of Mordecai Blackwood standing before her, his eye sockets glowing with an eerie blue light. He spoke in a voice that was both a whisper and a roar, demanding to know why she had disturbed his rest. Evelyn, mustering all her courage, explained that she sought to end the curse that plagued the town. Mordecai laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the chamber. He told her that the curse was his revenge on the town that had betrayed him. His spirit had been bound to the graveyard, and he drew power from the fear and suffering of the living. Chapter 11: The Ritual. Realizing that she had to perform the ancient ritual to banish Mordecai's spirit, Evelyn pulled out the diary of Ethan's grandmother, which contained the necessary incantations. She began to recite the words, but Mordecai's spirit fought back, summoning dark forces to stop her. Shadows moved and twisted around her, and she felt icy fingers grasping at her. Evelyn continued, her voice growing stronger as she recited the incantation. The symbols on the sarcophagus began to glow, and Mordecai's spirit screamed in rage and pain. The chamber shook, and the shadows writhed and dissipated. Chapter 12: The Sacrifice. As the ritual neared its climax, Mordecai revealed that the curse could only be lifted by a sacrifice, one who willingly gave their life to break the bond between the living and the dead. Evelyn, realizing the gravity of the situation, hesitated. But the thought of the town and its people, who had suffered for so long, gave her the strength to continue. She recited the final words of the incantation, feeling a sharp pain in her chest as Mordecai's spirit was torn from its earthly anchor. The last thing she saw was the spirit's enraged face as it was pulled into the void, and then darkness consumed her. Chapter 13: The Aftermath. The townspeople found Evelyn's body the next morning, lying peacefully in the mausoleum. The oppressive atmosphere that had hung over the graveyard was gone, replaced by a serene calm. The whispers had ceased, and the shadows no longer moved on their own. The curse was broken. The townspeople, mourning the loss of the brave woman who had freed them, gave Evelyn a hero's burial. The legend of the Whispering Graveyard became a tale of sacrifice and redemption, and the town of Blackwood slowly began to heal. The graveyard, once a place of fear, became a place of reverence, a reminder of the courage and selflessness of Dr. Evelyn Crane. Years later, the story of Evelyn's sacrifice was still told in Blackwood. The graveyard, now tended and cared for, became a symbol of the town's resilience. The whispers had ceased, but the memory of those who had suffered and those who had fought to end the curse remained. Dr. Evelyn Crane's name was etched in the annals of the town's history, a testament to the power of bravery and the enduring spirit of those who stand against the darkness. Her story inspired generations to come, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable horror, the light of courage and sacrifice could overcome the shadows of fear and despair.
Don't forget to subscribe.